And joining me to discuss updates on the Israel-Hamas war is foreign affairs expert Uriah Fancelli. Good to have you join us.
Hi, Precious. Thank you for having me.
Let me get your thought on this war and how it has evolved so far.
Well, it appears that Hamas, they got exactly what they wanted when they first attacked Israel. They wanted disproportional retaliation, and that's what Israel gave them. And now everything became very violent. We see footage of people, children dying in the Gaza Strip, and that's what pretty much Hamas wanted, so they could turn the world's opinion and support towards the Palestinian people. And what we see now is a lot of friction in the international community. The UN has shown itself not to be a very efficient problem solver when it comes to this war. So we see just prospects of escalation.
And there now appears to be a humanitarian crisis exacerbated by the constant shelling and shortage of fuel. We understand that there are negotiations going for release of more hostages, but shouldn't it be more important to negotiate a ceasefire to ensure that humanitarian aid is brought to the Palestinians?
Well, the reason why Israel and its main supporter, the United States, disagree on talking about a ceasefire, and that's why the U.S. also vetoed a Brazilian proposal at the Security Council, the United Nations Security Council, is that because a ceasefire, when we talk about it, it means something that could last a long time. It could last years and maybe even decades. That's what we've seen, at least in other wars. So that's why we're discussing mainly humanitarian pause. So it would last a shorter period of time, so it could at least allow for international support to reach the Gaza Strip. What the Gaza Strip is being receiving so far from the international community, from the Rafah border in Egypt, is very little compared to what they need. Before this war started, there were about 450 trucks coming in Gaza every single day, and what we see now is only maybe 8 or 10 and maximum 20 trucks coming in every day, and it's far beyond what the Gazan population needs right now. There was a report from UNICEF that condemned very much everything that is going on, because only in the first day when help arrived in Gaza, there were only about 44,000 bottles of water, which is enough only for 22,000 people in one day. And we're talking about a population of more than 2 million people. So there needs to be urgently a resolution when it comes to the humanitarian crisis.
And we also understand, I was talking about that negotiation earlier, it is being mediated by Qatar. A ceasefire is part of that negotiation, and then prisoner exchange deal, and it is in progress. But how far-reaching should these negotiations go?
I don't think that most of the hostages were kidnapped because Hamas wanted to do a prisoner swap. It happened in the past. For example, with the case of an Israeli soldier that was captured and he was arrested for 6 years, and Hamas exchanged him for more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners. So we're talking about one that was exchanged for 1,000. I don't think that's the main reason why they were captured now. I think because if we look at the total incarcerated population in Israel of Palestinians that are incarcerated in Israel, we're talking about only 5,000 people. So there is no need to kidnap 200 people to exchange them for even 5,000. So they're mainly being used as human shields. And the reason why I can point out that Qatar helped the negotiation of the 2 American hostages that were released in the last few days is because since Qatar is a very greater financial supporter of Hamas, it's a way that the country found to try to rebuild its image. So what better way to try to do a public relations work than trying to get two Americans to release? So we'll see. We'll have to wait and see what will happen.
And there has been the talk of a two-state solution for decades. Is this an opportunity to put that back on the table?
Well, at least it brings back the discussion to the table. I don't think that anything permanent could be reached at this point when there's so much attacks coming from both sides. But at least we can see now that the international community is talking about this again. Clearly, the Oslo agreements, the Oslo Accords that were signed 30 years ago in Norway, they failed for many, many different reasons. One of them is because both parties did not respect. They didn't go through whatever they promised. There was one item that said that within 5 years that Israel, that the borders between the two states were going to be delimited. That didn't happen, and that only propelled Israel to even advance its colonies in the West Banks. So there's still a lot to be discussed, especially when it comes to not only the West Banks, the colonies, but also to Jerusalem, which is a sacred city for the three largest monotheistic religions in the world.
The U.S. has now carried out airstrikes in Syria, and it says this is not related to the war. But again, this has sparked fears that this could kindle increased conflict well beyond Israel and Hamas. Do you see that happening, that if this is not resolved or negotiated immediately, there is no ceasefire immediately, that this could spark well beyond Israel-Hamas war?
Well, there are many different reasons why this conflict could grow to outside the Gaza Strip and also outside the Israeli territory. One of them is Hezbollah, which is another terrorist organization that is mainly positioned in the south of Lebanon, in the border with the north of Israel. And it's much more powerful than Hamas. It has more than 150,000 rockets and missiles. And the reason why the United States has been positioning itself in the region is because they want to dissuade dissuade Hezbollah from joining this war. These attacks that took place in Syria now, they were something specific that happened. They were ordered by President Joe Biden because the U.S. has troops positioned in the region in Syria. It's about 2,500 people, or 3,000 people in this region. And the attacks were specific because the U.S. wanted to send a message. So these groups, these groups that are supported by the Iranian government, they have been attacking the U.S. troops since the 7th of October. So the U.S. could not just stand still and let these attacks go on. So it was a way that to send a message to Iran.
All right, we'll see how this continues to evolve. Hopefully that negotiation works and there is a humanitarian pause or a complete ceasefire. Thank you so much for talking to us. As always, Foreign Affairs expert Oria Fancelli.
Thank you.